Chatlus is also available on Spotify and Amazon Music. Links in the description, check them out. Alright, welcome to the debut episode of Chatlus, my new Atlus podcast. Today I am joined by Shenpai. What's up?
Hello, how's it going? Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, no problem. I'm really glad you agreed to kind of come on and be the first guest, because for everybody I have on, I kind of have a particular thing I want to talk to them
Mhm,
about,
mhm.
and I figured I would get you on to talk about something that is sort of weirdly near and dear to my heart at this point, and that is sort of the Persona 5 era of like 2017 to like 2018, and just content creation for the series at the time, because I know a lot of people really associate you, especially with that era.
Yeah, it was really funny because, I remember I just got freshly out of my Overwatch phase, and I didn't really know what to do, and my good friend, Lieutenant Eddie, just handed me just gifted me a copy of Persona 5, and, it's actually kind of interesting how that happened because at first I wasn't going to stream it. I got 10 hours into the game, and then I was like, "I gotta stream this," and that's how my entire, dive into the entire Persona franchise even happened in the first place, just because I was so fascinated by this game that just entered my life, and I was offered, and I wanted to share that experience with everybody else, and it seemed to just work out. It was kind of crazy.
Yeah, so was that your introduction to Persona, or were you kind of familiar with the series beforehand?
I'm not really familiar with a lot of series, because I'm German and I used to be really particular, focused on school and was kind of alienated from the online spaces. I didn't know about many video games, so that was genuinely the first time I've ever heard of Persona. I didn't know what it was.
See that kind of brings up sort of a thing, an interesting idea for a topic is like how people from other countries, especially, kind of get
Mm.
into series. Because like I come at it from the perspective of a dumb American, and like most stuff is kind of catered towards us, right? Like
Yeah.
almost every big movie comes out from here, and since English is like the most popular language, every anime gets translated into English. But I know for a
Mm.
lot of people, like random example, I have a friend, shout out to Moxie, who like learned English to watch a lot of anime and kind of get into YouTube stuff. So,
Yeah, it's really interesting because here in Germany, we do get taught English as a mandatory language, and people are actually really good at learning English. I had the privilege of growing up bilingual because my dad's from California, so I already grew up with English in my arsenal, and the internet did make my language skills better. Um, I particularly on DeviantArt for some
oh, really?
reason. Yeah. But it helped me develop my language skills in English, and now my English is better than my German. It's kind of funny. Um, but when it came to Persona particularly, I don't think I saw it anywhere, which is uh even crazier. I think it's that instance where it might have been around, but you don't register it until you know of the medium directly, and suddenly you see it everywhere.
Yeah, like you probably did see it sort of in passing, but
Mm.
it definitely wasn't as popular before Persona 5. Like my first exposure to Persona was Persona 4 era waifu wars on like
Oh
random
god.
yeah, on like random forums and on like just on random places. So that's how I was kind of introduced to it, was sort of these secondhand like arguments about these characters.
That is true. I I thankfully didn't see them, but I definitely felt it when I played those games.
Oh yeah.
The waifu wars are very particular. Those are a big part of I don't know if it's really good to say this, but it's a very big part of persona culture, of like deciding whose romance option is better over the other. The waifu wars is very interesting.
Yeah, in some way, it almost works as like a weird marketing tool, kind of like a sort of
Mm.
indirect marketing approach. Like it certainly worked on me. That's what kind of got me interested in
Yeah.
trying the games out to begin with.
I think it's fun because Well, obviously, in some aspects, people get a little bit too serious about it, but I think it's sometimes just friendly competition and nice jabs towards each other because we all have like different perspectives on people and characters and developments. So there's a very obvious reason why some people go for certain characters. Um, and I always thought that was really interesting to see who decided to go with whom. And yeah, that's how I approached the entire series pretty much.
Yeah, like, I think those conversations are fun in moderation, but after
Mm,
a while, they kinda get out of hands. I think they're at their kinda most fun and pure, like, the first couple of months of, like,
mm.
whenever a thing is out, 'cause there's a lot more kinda innocence to it, of, like,
True,
discovering
true.
these characters and stuff, and people aren't as, like, hostile about it, but
Yeah. I mean, I think it comes with the era of um as well with the joke that's currently going around as, Persona fans are Persona 5's biggest fans who haven't played the game.
yeah.
So, there's definitely like a younger mindset to it. But none if you moderate it, it can be pretty fun. It can be pretty just teasing.
Yeah, I think they make for, like, good conversations, but, part of the
Mhm.
problem is that, like, on the internet, actual conversations tend to not go very far. It
No.
unfortunately, yeah.
No, unfortunately not. I was one of the people when I played Persona 5, I was like, "I'm not romancing any girl." And it was really funny. The entire it was an interesting. Everybody being like, "Oh, it's so boring." But I thought the entire interactions of what you would do like during like events when you would have a date are really funny when you don't have a date
Just
because
by yourself.
well, you hang out with the boys.
Yeah.
And I think
Honestly,
that's
better
just
though.
peak hilarity. I'm gonna be honest. In what way do you mean better?
It's anyways, moving on.
Oh my god.
So so yeah, you started playing Persona 5 and doing
Mm,
content for it more or less on a whim. Were you expecting it to kinda pop off as much as you did? Because
not at all. Nope.
yeah.
I was actually if I can be so bold, um Persona 5 actually saved my career, because I wasn't doing too hot, and I was trapped in a, um you know when you just do one content and are known for that one content, and when you deviate away from that content, you plummet? Uh, it's a very common phenomenon, especially, like, if you think about it, League of Legends content creators, if they suddenly like, they're known for League of Legends, they stop playing League of Legends, and suddenly their entire fan base is gone.
Yeah.
It was kind of the same with the Overwatch era. I have a lot of friends who stopped playing the game and were massively struggling because that was all what the fan base was. And I remember having a friend who had, like 2,000 views per, like, Overwatch stream, and suddenly when they deviated off of it, they had 200. It was insane, and the same happened to me where I had around 1,000 viewers per Overwatch stream, and then I just stopped, and I had about 150, and it was devastating on a content creation standpoint. And when I started playing Persona, it was slow, but over the more I streamed it and the more I hit like specific parts of the story, the higher the view count actually became until like towards the absolute height of the story, where I actually got over almost 2.5 thousand viewers again. And it quite literally put me back on the content creation radar. So I have a very special place for Persona in my heart, uh, because it made the job able oh my god, English is a hard language, I am so sorry. It
English
made
is
it
actually the most messed up language ever. It
it's
actually
true.
makes no
You can
sense.
you can say the sentence like 50 different times and it would still make sense. Um, but, yeah, it put me back on the radar and actually made me be able to continue doing content creation, so it kinda, like, it saved my career, and I'm very thankful for it, even if I don't talk about it too much anymore.
I guess we could kind of talk about some of our memories from that era, but yeah,
Mm,
I remember like so you weren't really into Persona beforehand, but there was definitely a very special sort of culture surrounding weirdly enough
mm.
the release of Persona 5 that I think has kind of been forgotten by a lot of people because I feel like at this point the majority of the fan base came in from Persona 5.
I wasn't there exactly for the release of Persona 5. I started playing it around 3 months when it was already out. So a lot of people were already done with the game. But I just remember it distinctively because everybody was making a fuss about the streaming rules, and the streaming rules are notorious for Atlus.
Oh yeah.
Um, especially with the fact that only recently they lifted a ban for Persona 5 Royal, I think, which was everybody was very confused about. Because I remember when that game came out, I streamed it all in one go.
I'm not sure how good Atlus even is at like upholding that because I'll see like when Persona 5 Royal came out, like the next day it was like Persona 5 Royal, new final boss and ending like on YouTube. So it's like I don't get the logic of why streamers aren't allowed to do it, but you could just post a video of it.
I think the reason that they did it is because they want like the idea that they want people to go in as blind as possible, but it's a little damaging for their reputation if they just wipe people off and make people scared of actually getting people into the medium. Because I remember a lot of people started playing Persona due to my streams because they had like a look in it and then they were like, "Oh, this kind of rules. I want to try it myself." And it's when you scare off streamers, especially in this day and age where people kind of rely on streamers to get an idea if they want to invest in a game or not. It's like free marketing, and I don't know why Atlas does it, but it's kind of damaging for their marketing in a way. So I don't know. It's a interesting perspective of what do you care more about, people like experiencing your game spoiler free, uh or have like the risk of few spoilers but have people actively like advertise it for you.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is just the fact that like Atlas, like Nintendo, kind of had the same problem a while
Mm,
ago. Is that it's run by a lot of like old businessmen who don't quite like they
mm.
don't quite get it. So
No.
yeah, so I'd imagine for them, it's basically to them the idea of watching a stream is almost the same as like stealing the game in a roundabout way.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's like a big part. They don't see a good potential in streamers, and which is also why they don't interact with streamers. Which I was very surprised that when Strikers came out, they actually went ahead and partnered up with streamers to advertise the game because that's what happened when Strikers came out. Fantastic game, by the way. I would recommend everybody to play it. We actually, me and another content creator, Crystal. I think you've talked with her
Yeah, I
before.
did. I did a video
Um,
with her not too long ago.
yes, we did a 3-day marathon because I was sponsored by the game itself to play it, and it was the first time I've ever interacted with their marketing team, and they actually acknowledged streamers. I thought that was really cool and a very nice step in the right direction. But especially with Persona itself, I don't remember if anybody got sponsored to play those games.
I don't think so. Like my
No.
memory of people sort of receiving like review codes of like especially Persona 5, like I don't really remember anybody having it before release.
No.
Maybe a couple people did. They were kind of in the know, but I'd say it was only around like 2020-ish or so when that started
Mhm.
becoming more kind of prevalent.
I think it's also because they saw it around them with other, especially with Sega, like just introducing streamers into their programs and actually utilizing streamers as a resource instead of shutting them away. I think Atlas is opening up to that a little bit. We can only hope that it continues.
I think it's definitely fair to criticize Atlas for a lot of the sort of goofy, silly stuff they do,
Mm,
but I think you gotta admit they're at least getting better about this kind of stuff. Like
yeah,
they're starting to put, the
yeah,
Persona games on PC, and, like, now we're getting, English releases of the game at the same time, which is a huge deal, by the way. Like, I don't know if
yes,
you remember, but Persona 5 came out, in Japan, like, a whole half a year before.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I remember because I think it was the Persona 5 and 3 dancing games that had like a 2 month, 2 to 3 month release in Japan before the English versions because I had to make a Japanese PlayStation account just to buy those games to play them day one without translations, which was interesting. um, and it was just wild to me that because nowadays it is so notoriously known that you want to release the game in every like language that you can. Uh, and I don't remember. Strikers did release in English with the Japanese version, right?
No, that game actually took, like, almost a whole year to come out in English.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. I
Yeah,
did
for
not
whatever
know
reason,
that.
the sort of impact of that felt a lot less than I feel like because less people kinda cared about Strikers overall,
Hmm.
but
That's interesting. I thought they came out at the same time because I remember being really hype about Strikers. Oh, it's been a while now.
yeah.
Oh, years.
Bro, time is scary, like, Persona 5 came out in Japan, like, 7 years ago.
Oh yeah. Persona Strikers got released in 2020.
Yeah.
Oh, I feel old.
Yeah, I don't know about you, the whole years from, like, 2020 to around 2022 felt like the same year to me.
Oh my god, you're right. It's an entire year that it got delayed. What in
Yeah.
the world? What the heck? I didn't know this. Oh wow, time is a weird construct and I do not want to mess with it. Okay. No, that's wild. Yeah, I hope that they start releasing games on uh in multiple languages at the same time because they really are missing out on a pretty huge fan base now that the West has caught on to Persona.
Yeah, I think it's something they'll kinda keep up with, like, I can't imagine them steering the course now because it's
Mm,
proven to be such a successful kinda model, and, like, it just
mm,
makes sense, right? To have, like,
mm.
basically the whole globe playing these games kinda at the same time, so then
Yeah.
there's no worry about, like, "Well, I was gonna get it, but I already watched, like, a translated playthrough in Japanese, so I know what happens, so it's like, what's the
Mm.
point?" kind of a thing, so
Yeah, the idea of like people having the game for an entire year and people translating it kind of like destroys the the interest in diving into the game because like oh yeah, they're just going to spoil it anyways. Or if you're really interested or wanted to play it from or like wanted to see it from day one, you're gonna probably pay attention to like free reign translators who are just like on on Tumblr or on Twitter. We're just going to release things about the game.
yeah, so I guess we could kind of talk about sort of the
Mm,
main topic of the video is sort of our memories of the Persona 4 or Persona 5 era. And I don't know about you, but at least to me, it still feels like sort of a weird concept, the idea that I'm like nostalgic for Persona 5 now. But I feel like
uh,
we're getting to around that time where it's like
mm,
despite the fact that they've been releasing spin-offs and stuff pretty consistently, this game came out a while ago. And especially
yeah.
if you're like me who is keeping track of it, like going all the way back, I think it was first announced in 2013, I want to say, or maybe
Mm.
2014. So for me, at least, it almost in a weird way feels like I've been, like this game's been part of my life for like 10 years.
Well, it is approaching almost a decade in years. It's like
Yeah.
7 years old now, which every single year I am coping and sitting here as they're going to announce Persona 6. They're going to announce Persona 6 and then they don't. And then there's another spin-off and I'm like, "Ah, they're really trying to milk Persona 5 for all it's worth."
Yeah. See, my idea or what I think is that like if it wasn't for the funny wacky coronavirus, I feel like Persona 6 would have been announced by now cuz like COVID
Mm,
kind of just slowed down game development so hard and like
so true.
yeah. It's like obviously they have to be working on it. Like I know it's funny to kind of poke fun at Atlus and be like it's like they hate money or something. It's like no, they are in fact aware. I know this might blow people's minds, but they are in fact aware that Persona 6 would make them money. But
Yeah.
you know, it's also one of those things where it's like they don't want to just shit it out because, especially considering Persona 5 was so well received and kind of had such a big impact on not just Atlas, but kind of just JRPGs in general. They don't
Mm.
want the follow up to that to just be like, yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, I think when people like think about Persona 5, especially if you're not a person who particularly knows much about Persona, you will have heard the music, you will have heard people talk about the style. There is quite a big leap to make in like quality because Persona 5 is just so stylized that you will have to do a lot to top it, especially in the interest part. And a lot of people don't know how they're going to do it. So I assume that's also where the entire development time goes in. I don't know if they're current. I assume they've been working on it like crazy. We don't know. We have no information, but I would assume if they are, then they're gonna have to work on that quite a bit because there's still something that can't be topped about Persona music, like Persona 5 music, Persona 5 UI, the animation, the style, the models, the presentation. There's just something so special about the game.
Yeah, like I think that's something that kind of works so well is just like a kind of marketing tool. It's just the fact that Persona 5 was so different from pretty much
Mm.
anything else. And to this day is still like there's a couple of kind of sort of Persona 5 like imitators out there, but nothing is quite like it. So I
Mm-mm.
think like you said, just like the music, like somebody posting like last surprise in a Discord server and everybody's like,
Yeah.
yo, what is this? And you're like, yeah, that's the battle theme. And people are like, what? Because everybody's probably
Yeah.
used to like Final Fantasy, like da 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 da, like that kind of stuff. So
Mm-mm. Yeah, but even like when it comes to Final Fantasy, the music world has pretty much changed quite heavily when it comes to video games. Because like like Persona 5, they and Persona 4 and Persona 3 all have their different like styles. I'm not too familiar with Persona 1 and 2, but I know people like the songs a lot. Um, but you can tell that they all have different themes, and it's the same with any other game that's releasing. Like, I mean, look at Sonic, like the new Sonic game. I mean, Final Fantasy 14 itself also is implementing like a huge amount of songs that people are raving about. Like you post and you're like, oh, this is part of a video game, like for real. But yeah, no, I think it's actually really interesting because I think music can carry a medium a lot, like a lot. And Persona 5 was a perfect example.
yeah, I think like part of the reason why Persona 5 kind of took off, because like for sort of boomers like myself who were more, we kind of got into it from like the Persona 4 era. I don't think any of us really expected P5 to pop off as hard as it did. Like, obviously, we expected it to be more popular than 4, but we
Mm.
expected it to be like this is sort of a weird scale to use. But like, if Persona 4 was like a 5 in terms of popularity, then 5 would be like a 6.5. But instead, it ended up just like blowing up, like seemingly out of nowhere. But
Mm-mm.
yeah, I think there is a ton of stuff that can kind of contribute to why that is. Like, obviously, I think kind of the rise in popularity of like streamers and YouTubers really playing the game
Mm-mm.
because I feel like before Persona 5, like Atlus was really not very well known for having their games like streamed or even really made videos about. There was a very, very niche group of people really making content for the series. And so
Mm-mm.
seemingly out of nowhere, like Persona 5 just came out running and you have all these streamers playing it and people are making memes about it and YouTube videos and stuff. So
Mm-mm. I think what's really interesting also is that when you're a Persona 5 player, it gives you like this interest to actually try the older games, because I think every single one of my friends that has played Persona 5 has dipped their hands into Persona 4 and 3, obviously, because that's what people tell you to play. But a lot of them also went back into the older games, Persona 1, 2, even going back into the SMT games because that's the origin. And I think just that game itself helped make those scenes bigger too, even though they have like very dedicated fan bases. I think that's really cool, very interesting.
yeah, for sure. It was definitely like as much as people sort of complain that Persona 5 kind of stole the limelight, like I feel
Mm.
like if anything, Persona 5 being as popular as it did had this huge kind of trickle down effect where now people are like, "Oh man, there's a Persona 4? No way." And then they go and try it out and then like same thing with like SMT. They're like, "Oh, Nocturne is a game? That seems cool. It's
Mhm.
like kind of like Persona. I'll give it a try." So,
Yeah, and then they get their ass beats.
yeah.
Uh, My friend's currently playing Nocturne, and he said he's having a holler of a time. I think that's wonderful.
Yeah, SMT is definitely a different experience compared to
Mhm.
Persona. I'll say that.
The only reason why I haven't tried it yet is because I'm an idiot. And I know that I'll play it badly, and I can't think very well. I'm not a strategic player. I
Honestly,
like to
same.
hit buttons. I like to hit buttons. Listen, when when I played Persona 5 Royal, during no spoilers obviously, but during the final encounter, there was there was a text on the top right corner telling you the status of the boss, and I didn't see it for 20 minutes. And I didn't realize that that was the solution to the puzzle. And all I did was the only thing I needed to do was look in the top right corner, and I couldn't. I
See,
couldn't see it.
See, I don't even blame you because, like, I assume you were streaming it when that happened,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Like, yeah. So, okay,
Yeah.
so this is something that's happened to me. I feel like this is something that people who don't stream don't understand is that when you
Mhm.
start streaming a video game, half of your brain shuts down
It's
immediately.
true.
I'm
It's
actually
true.
not joking. Like, I know it's easy to sit there and watch streamers and be like, you're so dumb, you don't
Mm.
see the thing. But it's like, streaming a game is so different from just playing it on your own
Yeah.
because half of your mental faculties are devoted to, like, being entertaining and having stuff to say and, like, trying to kind of keep up
Yeah.
with the chat. And then the other, like, half is maybe focused on the game. So,
Yeah, there's also like a little fraction that also like influence it. Like, so if we have the pie, half of it is, oh yeah, you gotta think about being entertaining. Then you would think the other half is playing the game, but there's a big of like, at least for me, a big slice that is still left over. That is, oh my god, I have to play well or people will think I'm
oh
stupid.
yeah, I'm the same way. Like that'll happen to me where I'm like, okay, I need to do well, and that makes you nervous, right? Because now it's
Yeah,
like,
it
oh
does.
god, it's like I can't just like play this the way I would want to. I think there's also kind of a feeling of like
Mhm.
you're expected to go fast. Like that's something that
Yeah.
messes me up a lot. Is that I don't ever want to sit there and be like, well, I really need this weapon, so I'm gonna spend like 15 minutes getting it instead of like, no, I don't need the weapon because if I go get the weapon, then everybody's gonna leave. So it's
Yeah.
like. So a lot of
Nobody
that
would
kind
have
of
watched the grind. Nobody would
yeah,
have watched. Nobody wants to watch the grind. No, but it's like
yeah.
it's a lot of like incoming factors. So it's. I mean, it is in hindsight funny to look back because you're sitting there and you're like, ah, fuck, oh my god, it's right there. Because it's so much easier to just view something when you're like casual instead of, oh, you're in the moment. Oh god, I'm being judged.
Yeah, like that's a big part of why I don't really stream games very often.
Mm,
I just don't particularly like the feeling of sort of being judged. I feel like weirdly enough, I'm more okay with playing like multiplayer games. Like I'll stream Street
mm,
Fighter every now and again. I think part of it is just there's like a human component on the other end. So it's like if I
yeah.
get my ass beat in Street Fighter, then it's like, well, I got outplayed. I should have done this and that here, and he was really good at this. Whereas if you're bad at a video game, it's like, okay, you just suck, dude. So it's like
That's like
there's not really anybody to blame but you.
that's true. That's true. I'm actually more scared of human counterplays because it makes me feel inadequate. But yeah, I guess it's just the perspective of how you go about streaming. But I think everything's valid. There's a lot of factors. Streaming is scary.
It
Ugh.
is.
Ugh, why am I doing this? No, but it's especially with streaming, even streaming the Persona games. I think the best part about it was just interacting with the community, seeing all the people like genuinely excited to see someone get into the medium. Um, even though like Persona 5 is getting memed to hell and back, it's special. I think it's special.
That's something that now that I kind of now I'm like old and I kind of look back on like the years of like I'd say from like 2017 to 2018. I think of it's kind of being like the sort of golden period of Persona
Mm,
5. And yeah, just like the sense of community and kind of enthusiasm about Persona 5 was really different. Like I feel
mm,
like it's pretty rare you see that kind of just like love for a game that kind of blossomed from Persona 5.
yeah. I would say this is true. I was trying to think about something, but not so much. I mean, Tears of the Kingdom can come close. Like that blew up pretty much, but that's a Zelda game. Like those
Yeah.
just do well because it's Zelda. um, but yeah, I think yeah, in that regard, I don't think there is something that is like Persona 5 because that was just a boom of content and artists.
Oh man, dude, I don't know about you. I so wish I could go back to 2017. Just like the algorithmic blessings of Persona 5 was
Mm,
so enjoyable. It's uh like, even though Atlus is like a whole video game company, I'd say I'm more so like an Atlus YouTuber than like a Persona YouTuber. So
Mm,
there's always that sort of trickle of stuff that's coming out, right? Like every year or so, we'll get a new game in in
yeah.
some series of theirs. But yeah, just like man, the Persona 5 era was so bumping, just in terms of like it
Yeah.
felt like there's 100 billion things to talk about. Where there was like, I'm gonna make some Persona 5 meme that's gonna get 97 million views, or I'm gonna talk about this character, or I'm gonna complain about this confidant or whatever. It's like there was just
Mhm.
so much to talk about.
I mean, it's a huge game, and this huge game that people play for what 90 to 100 hours. There is a lot to talk about. You could go on for hours and hours. I tried. I'm not much of a like commentary channel. I'm not very good with scripts. I attempted it once. It was kind of cringy. I could do a better job now, but it's like even now, I'm pretty sure I could just pick a section of Persona and I could talk about it for hours.
Oh yeah,
It's
definitely
yeah.
same. Like if you sit me down and have a conversation, but like more than just Persona 5, I think kind of just the whole series, like I'm kind of ready
Mm,
to go. Like I think there's definitely some topics that I've kind of gotten burnt out on, because like
mm,
that's something we'll kind of talk about this later on, but that's something
yeah.
that kind of happens whenever you have essentially, like, I don't want to call this a career because I don't consider this my job, but have sort of have like a presence surrounding a particular
Mhm.
game or series, is that it really does affect your relationship with it and how you kind of view it. And like a lot of
That's true.
conversations that are sort of innocent and fun at the beginning, like they start to get kind of tiresome once it's all right, let's talk about this for the ninth time, right?
Mm, it's true. It's true. Yeah, it's just it's monotony at that point because you feel like you're saying the same thing over and over again. So the conversation does get kind of boring. And it's like that's like the main thing that people always ask.
It's definitely, I think a lot of those, it's kind of like the sort of controversial stuff about the game,
Mm,
that it's
mm,
like, all right, I've heard it already. It's like I think at this point it's kind of like everybody has an opinion on these things, right? So it's
yeah.
sort of like that's kind of my thing. This is sort of like a sort of doomer mentality when it comes to discussion about certain stuff. But I feel like when certain topics, when you talk about them enough, there's nothing left to talk about. And it's kind of like
Yeah.
everybody sort of has an opinion on it. Like it's fine to talk about these things, but I feel like people act like they're gonna change somebody's mind, you know? And
Yeah.
that like almost never happens, especially like on the internet.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like personal, especially with being like in the LGBTQ scene, I think the most thing that was mentioned to me is like, oh, these two in quotation marks gay characters that were put into Persona 5, and them being like a very gross depiction of homosexual people. I was like, yeah, that was talked to death. We all just kind of ignore it now because it's like it's just added in for a very weird gag. So we just close our eyes to it and act like it doesn't exist.
Yeah,
And it
I think
gets
that that's something
oh.
about me, is that I'm very kind of easygoing about a lot of stuff. Like
Mhm.
very little kind of like really bothers me. So
Mm.
like this is something that I'll just say straight up, I do not like about the sort of wider like Atlas community, is a lot of these kind of like calls to action about certain stuff.
Yeah.
I think that's like sort of inherently cringe unless you're like dealing with actual real stuff. Is any kind of like,
Mm.
all right, guys, we gotta get together and we're gonna make a change. Like we're the Phantom Thieves. We're gonna spam the Atlas Twitter account, and they will remove this scene from the game.
No, I think it's good to like talk and like have an opinion about it, but I feel like especially with how Atlas is, I don't think they really care about what Westerners think. Um because they are very like Japan focused, especially with their releases. And I think they'd listen to the Japanese fan base more than they'd listen to the Westerners. It
Oh, for
feels
sure. Actually,
yeah.
this is something that like I know a lot of Americans, especially, are very kind of like America centric. They're very like we're
Yeah.
the only people. So that's something that does kind of annoy me whenever they're like it doesn't
Mhm.
suit sort of our sensibilities. Therefore, why is it in the game?
Japanese culture. Why is it in my Japanese video game?
Yeah.
No, but it's just like those controversial topics. I don't like talking about them. I have my opinions about them, but it's like after a while you just get tired. It's like constantly looking at bad stuff on Twitter. It's like just close your eyes. Just don't interact with it. It's fine.
Yeah, see,
You
my
curate.
secret to attaining mental peace is I don't even have a Twitter. I stopped using it. Like I think I picked
That is so
I think
smart.
I picked the best time to not be on it because I stopped like right before COVID. I think it was like February of 2020.
Mhm.
So I was lucky enough to kind of miss out on literally everybody being online and just voicing their opinions about everything.
Oh yeah, Twitter is not a very good area to be in, especially because of oh my god. Um, but it's unfortunately the best area for artists right now. Except that that's going down the drain now because of all the wonderful changes that
Yeah.
our wonderful owner of Twitter is now doing.
Bro, I don't
Let me
so
just get
like
some fucking clapping.
you've seen the new update how like now on Discord and stuff you can't even see the embedded tweets anymore. Like you need to log in to like
Mm,
see accounts. I don't know how it's possible to make an app worse for non-users. That fascinates me. I don't know how that's even
yeah,
possible. But
yeah.
somehow they did it.
I I don't know what's going on there, but that's what I use it for. I use it for art specifically. Art and advertisement, and that's pretty much all that it's good for. It's very just don't interact. Don't interact, just post and move on.
Yeah, that's probably like the one and only thing that I do sort of miss out on is just the lack of
Mhm,
like social media exposure, being able to tweet out, be like, yeah, here, guy, hey guys, here's my new video or whatever. But
mhm.
I don't like, I will take having better mental health over getting a couple extra views any day of the week. Like,
That's fair.
yeah,
That's fair.
I think for a lot of people with Twitter, it's just a lot of bad like case of fear of missing out. But like you
Yeah.
stop using it for like a year and you start to realize like I'm not missing out on anything. It's
Mm-mm.
like if anything, this has made my life better overall.
Yeah, over the course of the last week, I've not been on Twitter much because one of my posts kind of left target audience. Uh, and you know how it is when on Twitter something leaves target audience, you get quote retweeted to hell and back. I just decided to not look at Twitter for a good 5 days, and I was like, man, this is the most peaceful I've ever felt. Maybe I should do this more often.
Yeah, like, I know this is a sort of deeper topic we're getting into, but I definitely
Yeah.
feel a greater like just peace of mind because I'm not on
Mm,
Twitter. It's like I wake up and I'm not worried about like, oh man, what happened on Twitter today? And I don't go to
mm,
sleep grumpy because I was like, oh, that guy said that thing on Twitter. That makes me so mad. It's just like
yeah.
I just feel like I'm able to kind of go day by day and like do stuff that I want to do. I'm not as worried about this very sort of like lowly experience in terms of like Twitter is just not a very positive place, right?
No,
Like, I
it's
think
not.
yeah, so that's definitely something that's kinda helped me, like, I know this sounds sorta grandiose, but I think it really has made me have a better, like, view on humanity, as weird as that is to
Mm.
say, now that I'm not, like, exposed to all the, like, unhappiness that exists on there.
I wish I could be the same. I just, if I can, sound a little insane, I am. I love the drama.
Mm.
I love sitting and sipping my tea and reading some things on the side and being like, oh, okay, people are being insane again. It's actually like a guilty pleasure of mine, especially because I know how to like kind of how do you say it? Like make sure that I don't intake too much of it.
Yeah.
How do you call that? Monitor it? No,
You sorta, like,
manage.
limit yourself or
Yeah, like
yeah.
limiting myself of how much I expose myself to that stuff. So when I'm like, this is getting too upsetting, I'm just gonna close Twitter and watch a YouTube video or something.
Yeah, like I enjoy it in kind of small doses, but I think eventually it kind of reaches a point where it's like
Mhm,
I think my biggest pet peeve is like manufactured drama about stuff. Like this is something
mhm,
that I would see a lot when I was still on Twitter is like made up stuff about like Atlas because like it's totally fine to criticize the company. There's a lot of stuff that they do that's very sort of questionable and like kind of
mhm.
anti-consumer, but a lot of the time people just like invent stuff. It's like
Yeah,
I think that especially bothers me because it makes real discussions about stuff seem like less legitimate because
yeah.
now you're not complaining about yeah Atlas charges you like $30 and they like remove DLC from the game and like resell it to you and instead they'll make stuff up like
Yeah. Thankfully, I haven't run into that yet, but that's because I don't see much Persona content being mentioned at all anymore. I think the recent amount I've seen is just because of the new Persona 3 remake
yeah
or rework. I don't remember what it was. I didn't pay
reload
attention too much. Yeah. And that's pretty much the only time I've seen Persona be talked about that much, like, in a while now.
Yeah, like as much as I do love the series and I do love kind of talking about it, I think after a certain point it does get like we said, it's like it's just the repetition of it. Like that's the thing that kind of drives me the most crazy about
Mm,
talking about Persona. It's just like you see the same topics brought up over and over again. Like obviously I'm
mhm.
not helping myself by kind of being like an Atlas YouTuber, so I'm kind of at the forefront of it, but at least to me it feels like it's the same conversations over and over and over again. It's like as much as I do miss the like 2017 era when these conversations were fresh. I think now that we're 6 years on, it's like you see the same chat over and over again. It's like, oh my god, y'all still
Yeah,
talking about that?
yeah. It's I think when it comes to Persona, the only thing that I would say is play Persona 5 Strikers, please, 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 please.
Strikers goes hard.
Please, Strikers is so good. The writing is incredible. It actually like makes the characters much more fun than what Persona 5 has done. It's a good story. It has good music. The gameplay is actually genuinely amazing. I had so much fun with it. It is just a wonderful time all around. And a big shout out to just Max Middleman for voicing Ryuji because he put his heart and soul into that character. It is actually like such a treat through and through. Please play Strikers. Please, please, please. So good. Sorry, I'm the Persona 5 Strikers shilling person.
No, that's good.
I'm
I'm glad somebody's out there repping that game because I feel like that game has kind of like sort of gone under the radar now. Like I
Yeah.
feel like people don't really talk about it all that much, which is kind of a
No,
shame because I really like that game.
I was so in love with Strikers. I want more people to talk about it. I don't know what happened with its marketing, genuinely. But yeah, it was talked about while I played it, and then it was gone again. And I was like, huh, that's strange.
Yeah,
That's
it was
weird
a
for
very
a
flat.
Persona 5 game.
Yeah, it's a very flash in the pan kind of game. It definitely didn't have like the same kind of staying power that Persona 5 did.
No. I wish it did. I really enjoy Strikers.
You know.
Not me upset. I'm not visually upset. What do you mean?
Yeah, I guess now that we kind of talked about some of our, if do you have any more sort of memories or standout experiences from, especially when you're kind of getting into Persona 5?
I think my favorite thing, as much as I love Persona 5, I loved going backwards into the games. Because a little known fact about me, Persona 4 is actually my favorite Persona game.
Hmm.
And I think it was interesting because people were just like, "Oh, you did that completely fucking backwards. What are you doing?" But I thought it was really interesting to go from Persona 5, this really fleshed out game, that has like it knows what it's doing, it knows what it's presenting, and then going back to Persona 4 and seeing the complete shift in video game. And seeing like where the concepts first came from, then going to Persona 3. I was going to continue with Persona 2 and 1, but I was kind of burned out on Personas in general because I played them so close to each other in quick succession. I was just like, I'm gonna take a break. And yeah, that's when I kind of like distanced myself a little bit from Persona, but it was still a present in my life. I think that was like my favorite part, just seeing the difference in games, especially from where Persona 3 basically started. Can't say much about 2 and 1, but so I'm gonna use this metric. I'm not trying to like ignore those games. It's just I can't speak about them. It's it was just interesting to see the difference of progressive evolution of how the games came to be and how Persona 5 just is like this massive leap in quality.
Yeah, I feel like now that's kind of like that's just what happens is people get into it from 5 and then they kind of go
Mm,
backwards. Like I feel like
yeah.
nowadays it's way less common. I mean, I guess a little bit more sort of in recent times cuz Persona 4 Golden got put on Steam and like so did
Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Persona 3 Portable and like Persona 3 Reload is coming out, so that's definitely going to introduce kind of a new wave of
Mm.
people who get into Persona for the first time. So
Yeah. No, I think that's gonna be interesting. I don't know how much Persona 3 is going to. I mean, I hope it sparks new interest, but I'm not sure. I just know I'm gonna play it definitely. I'm very very excited in that regard.
yeah, so another reason why I wanted to get you on is that since you've been making content for like how many years at this point?
I started when I was 18.
Oh wow.
So so almost 7 8 years.
Yeah, I think I've been going about the same. I want to say I started like
Mhm.
2016, I want to say, but yeah, a big reason why I wanted to get you on is because I kind of wanted to talk about how content creation and especially the internet were different back then. Because
Yeah.
nowadays, the internet, at least to me, like I don't know how much of this is just the fact that I'm like elderly at this point, but the internet, the internet to me now feels very, very different from how it was even when like Persona 5 came out, which like in the grand scheme of things was not that long ago.
I'm just trying to think. In what regard do you mean that? Just if you don't mind me asking.
Um, yeah, so one thing that I think has definitely kind of like changed about the internet, like I don't know how long you've necessarily been sort of like an active internet user, but I'm one of those children who should not have been on the internet as much as I was kind of growing up. Like I remember going on like websites I shouldn't have been going on when I was like barely a teenager. So I think
Oh
my
yeah.
my kind of perception of like what the internet is definitely very different from I think a lot of people who started like really using the internet and especially the past couple of years. But
The only real difference that I felt is seeing the progression of the internet. But that, like, I don't think that has anything to do with Persona because, like, the last thing that I thought about is, oh yeah, I remember watching Full Metal Alchemist in my bed on YouTube in like 360p, part for part. Like, oh yeah, Full Metal Alchemist episode 25, part one, part two, part three, and they're all like fucking 5 minutes long.
oh
That's
man,
like
dude,
my
you
memory.
you did not actually experience anime if you didn't watch it through that extremely messed up
Ex-
method. Like, bro, if you remember, if one part was missing, the whole thing was screwed. Like the whole
yeah, it
operation
was.
was done. If it was like, oh my god, I can't find part five. Where is it? Where is it? It's like it's over. Just
Yeah. And it's the same. I mean, as I said earlier, I grew up on DeviantArt.
oh
That's a
yeah.
site you don't want to grow up on. Oh my god. But when it comes to Persona at the time, I'm trying to remember how the internet was back then because I think it was already around the time where YouTube made its big like UI overhaul. I'm pretty sure.
It might
So,
have been. I don't know. My
mm,
perception of like big UI changes on YouTube is kind of messed up because I've been using the website since like 2006. So
when
I
they had
see.
their personalized pages.
Yeah. Oh my God, those are so cool, dude. Back in the day, like on
Yeah.
YouTube, you could customize it any way you want. You could have like different fonts and backgrounds and
Hmm.
stuff. And now every channel looks the same. It's like the only thing you can
Yeah.
really change is like the wallpaper and your
The
avatar.
banner, yeah, the
Yeah.
banner and your icon, and that's it. Good luck.
Yeah.
Have fun. Yeah, it was. I think overall for what YouTube is now, I think it's good. I mean, it's a little sad, but I feel like a lot of people would get jarred by the personalized pages. I definitely think it has its the way that it was presented definitely screams super old school.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of biased towards that sort of aesthetic. I hope
Yeah.
that sort of comes back someday in the same way that the kind of like 80s, 90s internet nostalgia exists. I feel
Yeah.
like in a couple of years we're gonna see kind of the rise of like 2000s core, where it's like,
Oh
yeah, man,
god,
you remember
yeah.
how the internet used to look?
Oh man, yeah, I guess so. Oh my god, we're already like in we're already halfway to 2023. It's already been
Yeah.
3 years.
Oh
Oh
my
my
god, yeah.
god. I'm feeling myself shrivel. I'm becoming old.
Yeah, one thing that I think is definitely different, like I'm sure you'll probably agree on this idea, is that the internet has become so much more just like commercialized, especially in the past like
Mm,
5 years or so. Like I think that's something that I miss a lot, particularly was kind of just the sense of like innocence that existed on the internet sort of back in the
mm.
day. Cause like, especially in the 2000s, doing internet stuff for money was like, that was weird. Like
Oh yeah, yeah.
like nowadays, every apparently like this is actually a true thing is that being a YouTuber is like now one of kids' most desired careers when they like ask kids
Mm-mm.
what they want to grow up to be. Like, don't become a YouTuber, by the way, kids. But yeah, like back in the day, the idea of being a YouTuber was like very foreign. That was weird,
Yeah.
right?
Everybody, so when I started YouTube, because I uploaded really early on, but I was one of those kids that was influenced by the wonderful Amnesia Let's Plays from all of our favorite YouTubers.
Oh yeah, I remember
um,
those.
and that's where it all started. Like a lot of people, like especially during that time, they wanted to just upload because the idea of creating content was a marvel and it was fun and people did it for fun. And when people started realizing that you were able to make money off of it, I think that's where that mental like boom and interest in turning it into profit actually comes from. Because I mean, the problem is that there's still an insane amount of luck involved. God, if I'm not an example of it, um, it's hard. It's hard to maintain that luck, and if you don't have anything to offer, you're gonna run into like problems. You're gonna run into obscurity. You have to genuinely work for it. It's insane. Oh,
Right, like that's why I kind of say don't pursue YouTube as a career is because first of all it's
mm,
so volatile, right? Like
yeah,
if you sort of specialize in a particular game or whatever and that game just like falls off, then you're probably going to go with it unless you can adapt quick. Like kind of
hmm,
like what you said with Overwatch where that was kind of like your thing for a while and then you sort of
hmm,
switch to more sort of variety stuff. Like unless you can really switch and adapt to stuff, then your channel is probably going to flounder. And like you said, I do
yeah,
actually agree with the idea that YouTube is like 30% hard work, like 20% having good ideas and 50% luck. There is
yeah,
just unironically, like this is something you kind of have to get into your head is that there is a huge luck factor. And
hmm,
like sometimes you're gonna make a video and you're gonna think this is the best video ever. I can't wait for this to pop off and it'll get 20 views. And then you could upload like some weird shit post of you dying in a game or
yeah,
whatever. 15 million views, most popular video ever. And it's just like
yeah,
you can never quite tell. And that's something that you have to like kind of almost be at peace with. Like that's something that I've kind of grown to accept is that like a lot of the time the stuff that you expect to do well probably won't, and the stuff that you sort of just throw out there may end up
yeah.
being your most popular video just out of nowhere.
Which is why this is always what I preach. If you want to do YouTube, do it for fun. Do it for fun. If it turns out that you grow up from it, like, good, that's good. But still keep in mind that you're pretty much gambling a career. And that luck can run out if you're passionate about it and you have something to share. I've seen so many YouTube channels that had actually like genuinely wonderful content who only get like 2 to 3,000 views, which is very sad for the amount of effort that they put into these videos. Um, but like it's still a large number for people, and I think you got to work and hope for and like put your dedication into it, but don't don't see it as an immediate career. It's not that I mean it's every YouTuber will say the same. We don't want to gatekeep the job. It is just that there is no guaranteed success in it.
Yeah, like I definitely
That's
don't want
yeah.
anybody to think that I'm like some tyrant who's like, don't you dare try to take over
Yeah.
my throne. I sound like a fucking Persona 5 palace ruler, but
Yeah.
this is sort of genuine advice. I'm not trying to be like, don't pursue your dreams, but it's like you kind of have to go into this with a certain expectation that
Mhm.
like go into it thinking that you won't get views, and that helps a lot because I've
Yeah.
known a lot of people who like get into YouTube and the going is rough at the beginning, but that's how it is for everybody. It's
Yeah.
like the first couple videos you made you might get lucky to crack 100 views, and people get depressed, kind of depressed because they're like, what the hell, why is it not 100,000 views right now? Because it's like it's slow, it's a grind, it's a process. Like I've had to kind of stay on the grussel for like
Mhm.
7 years trying to build up a channel to where it is. So
Yeah.
it's not an overnight process. Like this sort of stuff takes time, especially if you're like me who talks about sort of a more kind of niche topic. But there's definitely a benefit in that as well to kind of like corner a certain market where you're like, yeah, I talk about this sort of obscure series, and
Yeah.
there's sort of a almost guaranteed viewership that comes from that.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, a lot of people seem to forget that because like we watch content creators who like get like millions upon millions of views, and you need to like keep in mind that even cracking like 50,000 views is massive. That's actually much bigger than you would imagine.
Yeah.
And especially getting 100,000 views is really good. I sometimes forget that, especially with my subscriber count. I always like devalue myself. Oh, I'm doing something wrong. But no, you need to keep in mind that's 100,000 people. That's a lot of
Yeah.
people.
That's, like, actually a number that I think the human brain can't really think of. That's,
No.
like, beyond the scope of what you're like, you can kinda picture it, but you can't really understand it. That's
Mm.
so many people. Yeah, I guess kind of segueing off of that, I wanted to talk about how making content about a particular series kind of affects your relationship with it and sort of your enjoyment of it. Because I think like pretty much any YouTuber or like streamer or whatever will tell you that
Mm,
your kind of view of a thing becomes different when it becomes like essentially almost part of your job. Like it depends if you're doing
mm.
YouTube as like a job, but at least for me, I definitely don't see Persona and kind of like Atlas games in general the same way that I did before I started making videos for them. I don't know if you've kind of had the same experience, like beyond just Persona, but with kind of anything you've covered.
I think it adds into the same notion of when you become a streamer slash YouTuber, you kind of your entire psyche kind of changes because if you're not a content creator, you kind of play these games as games. But when you're a content creator, you kind of like look at them and you're like, "Oh, I can't miss out on this. This is important for my career." And oh, I want to engage with this medium that is kind of important to my job. And it while it sounds insane, it is an unfortunate byproduct of doing this all the time. Um, and when it came to Persona, I you don't really have a moment where you're like, "Oh, I want to play this for myself," because it's just a constant game that keeps going and going, and like every single day affects how your confidants move on, how you strategize towards the dungeons and stuff. What are you doing during the time periods? And you can't really just like lay low and like think about it slowly. There's definitely pressure, and it does change the way that you look at it a little bit. For me personally, it's not too bad, um but it does add into the content creation aspect very heavily.
Yeah, like especially for me, like any kind of whenever you stream a game, I think the
Mhm.
experience is very different because now it's like in some
Oh
ways
yeah.
it's not even like your experience anymore. It's kind of like your experience and the chats and just like you
It's
you probably
our
yeah,
experience.
you more so remember like the streams, I think, more so
Yeah.
than playing the game itself, right?
Oh god, absolutely. That is oh yeah, definitely. And I mean it's all memorialized. It's all there. And it's the only thing that I that like it's like a set in time that I can go back to and re-experience and cringe at. No, it's definitely yeah. I don't know how to fully explain it without sounding insane. No, I don't fully know how to explain it otherwise. It's just yeah, content creation does change the way you look at games completely. I think the biggest problem for most content create at least from the ones that I talk to is that you can't really enjoy games off recording or off stream anymore. Or finding a game like that is genuinely very rare because in your mind you're just thinking, "Oh, if I don't stream this, if I don't record this, I am missing out on my job," which is insane. It's insane how that impacts you.
Yeah, I think that's definitely like one of the biggest kind of sort of almost distracting factors of it is that like somewhere in the back of your head you're thinking like, yeah, I do want to play this game, but it's like also like I gotta pay the bills, and that's like sort of in a way part of the reason why I'm playing it, right? So that definitely kind of has an effect on just like your approach to it is like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
there's money involved, and I think no matter what, that's gonna kind of affect sort of like the purity of an experience, where it's like
True, yeah.
because like back in the day, it wasn't like I was making any money like just playing a game. But nowadays, it's like, assuming Persona 6 comes out ever, that's like when I go through that game, I will kind of be viewing it from the perspective of, like, how can I kind of capitalize off of this, right? Like, which
Yeah.
characters would be interesting to talk about, or what thing about the story would make for a good video or whatever. So,
Yeah, it's the idea of like creating topics for engagement. Oh my god, we sound like companies. That sounds horrible. I don't like that, but no, it's the truth. Um, it's just like it starts I'm vibrating in my chair here because it's just it sounds so messed up, but that's just how the content creator space is. And especially when you're like, oh yeah, what are we gonna do once Persona 6 gets announced? oh yeah, the first thought that goes through people's heads is reaction. We need that reaction.
Yeah, we need those views.
Yeah. And it's just like and even though it's like in the end you shouldn't care about views, it is unfortunately just in the back of your head indefinitely, especially when it's something that is your career. You can't just blot it out because your your income and your living just kind of like relies on it. You're like sitting there, it's like I somehow need to pay for food on my table, and it's just, yeah, it does change the view a little bit, but it's still a game that you can enjoy and make opinions about. I think it's especially for analytical YouTubers, not analytical. What do you call it? Like commentary
Oh, I guess so,
or
yeah. Or like
like
essayists,
people
kinda.
essayists,
Yeah.
especially for essayists who deeply engage with that medium. I couldn't do that. I'm not smart. I play video game.
Yeah. Kinda same. I'm no good at like writing scripts about stuff. Like I kind of
Yeah.
just talk to people or talk like to
Yeah.
myself essentially. But
Yeah, and like if you take those people into example, they like engage fully with that medium, and the amount of thought and ideas that have to go behind like their articulated points and responses is also completely different. It makes you just it probably makes you a lot more uh critical of the medium. So you have something to talk about, especially also as a streamer. Sometimes you have to give your opinion about the game so people can gauge how you're feeling about it. Like
yeah.
your thoughts are very out there. They're not for yourself unless you want to keep them for yourself, but then people aren't as invested because people like actually care about opinions a lot.
Yeah, also I don't want to paint a picture for people that were like some kind of like evil capitalists that were just out here like "Ah, ha, ha, I only play video games for money," but it is sort of a part of kind of the experience that you do have to
Yeah.
like on some level kind of admit to, is that like there is a sort of money factor involved in it when it
Yeah.
comes to like any kind of content creation. Like luckily I don't do this as like a job, but
Yeah. Unfortunately for me, it's my job. I pay my rent with this money. I'm trying to exist with this money.
yeah, like honestly,
So yeah.
that is something that's kind of scary about like I think for any self-employed person, but especially for YouTubers, is just like
Mhm.
the sort of uncertainty. Because like if you work a quote unquote normal job, it's like all right, every week I'm gonna get such and such amount of money.
Yeah.
Whereas with YouTube, you never really know. Like you definitely
No,
have
you don't.
sort of averages that you can rely on, but some months it'll be great, some months it just won't, and that's kind of just part of the experience.
And the tax consultants aren't happy about that, let me tell you.
Oh yeah, dude, trying to pay your taxes as a YouTuber is actually miserable.
They just want they get so confused. They don't understand it. So they will abuse it in every way that they can. Um and paying taxes is hell as a content creator because it's not the same income every month. It is always fluctuating, always different. Sometimes you have more, sometimes you have less, and they're just as confused as we are.
Oh yeah, like
One
I've had like phone calls with like different like agencies or whatever that
Mm.
they're asking me just like stuff about my identity or whatever, and you have to like explain to them. It's like, why? Okay, so your income this month was this month, and this month was this much, and then next month it was zero. What happened? It's like, all right, let me tell you. So
Yeah, that's pretty much it. It's so funny. Yeah, it's just like explaining the medium and people being just absolutely confused is pretty funny.
yeah, I guess we could move on to some questions. I asked a couple of my
Hmm.
viewers for some questions for us.
Yeah, of course. Awesome.
All right, so from Pushin Pingu, who says, "This is an absolute nostalgia trip. I used to watch you both religiously around 7 years ago. I wish you both well." Yeah, I don't know about you. That makes me feel old. The idea that somebody has like
Oh,
nostalgia from like my videos.
it's yeah, it's I mean, even nowadays people just come into my chat and sometimes say that, "Oh yeah, I used to watch your like Persona stuff like really long ago." And then I realize, "Oh, it's been a while and I aged another 70
Yeah,
years."
it has in fact been a while.
It has been a while. It's actually like quite old now, and it's actually like insane how fast time has moved on. And but it's nice. I mean, if people think that that is like nostalgic, that kind of makes me feel good. It's to know that it had an impact on somebody and they enjoyed it so deeply. It's like, wow, I'm honored.
Yeah, like a lot of the kind of content that I like to make is mostly around like recommendations for stuff and kind of
Mm,
like expressing a love for a game. Like at least to me, the best feeling in the world is whenever somebody tells me, "Yeah, I started playing this thing because I watched your video on it," or "I started watching this" or whatever. That gives me like legitimately a sense of fulfillment that's way more than any kind of views could ever get me. Because that makes me
yeah.
feel like I sort of had like an actual impact. It's like the plan succeeded.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting how like just small interactions can change someone's course of life. Because when I was doing my persona my persona playthrough, I made friends with a few people who like genuinely like ended up just interacting in my community and finding more friends that they are like now like even closer with, some people starting relationships all because they talked in my Discord server in the Persona chat. And that is wild to me. Like that my stupid videos, my stupid playthrough had such an impact to make people's lives better. And I didn't I all I did was play a video game. That is it is I don't know how to explain it. It's just baffling and wild to me.
So, there was in fact a question attached that we started talking about like just
Oh,
the comment.
no,
Yeah, I
I'm
know
sorry.
it's fine. No, it's fine.
Oh.
They asked if there is, what is a Persona character that you change your opinion on the most, and what's the story behind it?
Ah, a Persona character that I changed my opinion on.
So I have an
Ah,
answer if you'd like to mull it over for a second.
sure.
Yeah, okay, so without a doubt, this honestly, this might be the character beyond just Persona that has kind of like gone on a roller coaster in terms of how much I like them is Mr. Goro Akechi. So yeah, so like I think I've gone through like every basically every kind of stage you can go through or every like opinion you can have on a character because like when I first finished Persona 5, I think my feeling towards him was confusion essentially. And
Yeah.
throughout like kind of the course of a year or so, it changed from like confusion to dislike to hatred to why was he in the game? And then I don't know if this ever happens to you, but sometimes for me, I'll reach this point where I dislike something so much, I just like give up on disliking it. I just start to enjoy it for what it is. Like that's kind of what happened to me with Akechi. Was after a while, I was like, yeah, this character's kind of like crazy, but I kind of like that. It's like so after a while, his like reputation for me improved a lot, and by Royal, like I think Royal Akechi is probably my third favorite Persona 5 character. But he is a character that I genuinely love to death.
Yeah. No, yeah, if we're going about that, yeah, I think I'm like trying to think, I'm like trying to think, is there any Persona character that I genuinely changed my opinions of? And not really. And then I remember, oh yeah, Akechi exists.
Yeah.
And then everybody's like, oh yeah, right, Akechi is a thing. Because I am one of the people who also did not like Akechi. Like I thought he was fine as a villain, but it just like we kind of um how much into spoilers can I go
Oh,
for the
that I
other
mean, this
games?
game is old. That's fine.
Yeah, because like when it comes to Akechi, he was just like kind of like a villain to me. I enjoyed Adachi a little bit more in that regard because he's just fucking crazy. and then uh and then Royal came out and I was just like, "You know what? I get it now."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Okay, Akechi's actually pretty fucking awesome." He's a pretty cool character. They really did him like they really did him justice in that game. Um and everything that came afterwards, I adore what Royal did with all the extra characters, even with Kasumi. I hope I said her name right.
Yeah.
With Kasumi, and I just think, ugh, God, such good characters. Royals was just a really good experience. The bonus content was so good.
Oh yeah, dude, like the like third semester of Royal, I don't know if it's fair to count that as like its own story, but at least to me that's
Yeah,
like the best Persona story in the whole series. It's just like
I
the whole
also gotta
third
say,
semester.
yeah, Maruki is just one of my
Oh
favorite
yeah.
Persona characters ever. But that's yeah, I love Maruki just in general. I love the entire story. I thought it was very nice.
See, from Jaded Gambler, who says, I'm very excited about the podcast. I love your content, Fither. Thank you. And the question is, do you have any piece of media that you revisit in times of strife to help you get yourself back together? Every couple of years, I'll replay Persona 3, and I always feel so motivated and rejuvenated after doing so. Do either of you have a piece of media that whips you back into shape?
I have one, but it's not Persona related.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, so I've actually been pretty demotivated recently, until I started watching Mob Psycho 100.
Oh, yeah, that's a good show. I need to watch the third season of that.
Yeah, no, Mob Psycho hasn't like added like ended. If we're going to Persona territory, though, I think one of the mediums that I go back to quite frequently is actually genuinely the original Persona 4 animation. The
Okay.
weirdest pick ever, but I love the original Persona 4 animation with my entire being. A lot of people discredit it because the art style is not as great. But the story and the recap and like especially like how they portrayed the main protagonist and their relationships, I would recommend everybody to watch the original Persona 4 animation. Not Golden. Don't watch Golden. That's trash.
So okay, I think the Golden animation is actually the best like watch with a friend kind of show ever
Yeah.
because it's so schlocky and it's so like kind of
Uh,
bad. It makes for a
yeah.
great like sort of show to riff on.
Dude, I tried. I wanted to make a video on it because I wanted to just react to it. I couldn't. I made it for the first episode and decided I didn't want to continue watching it. um, I don't know how they messed it up that bad, but they did. Um, but no, the original Persona 4 animation, you could tell that they cared about it. They cared about it a lot. Even if the budget wasn't in it, they tried to like put a lot of homage to the original Persona 4, and they fixed a lot of weird story beats too. I genuinely adore the Persona 4 animation, and I actually loved it so much that I made my mom watch it.
Oh God, what did she
And
think?
she liked it.
That's good.
She thought thought it was awesome without even knowing anything about the game. And yeah, I advocate for that because I think the ending of the Persona 4 anime always gets to me because they put a lot of emphasis on how much the characters care about each other. That's what the music's good. Very emotional. I cried. Oh man, now I want to rewatch it again. Damn.
Yeah. The Persona 4 animation is a good pick actually. I think that show's like really kind of comfy.
Yeah.
I think it does a
No,
good job
it's
kind of
nice.
capturing the like sort of more laid back kind of vibe that Persona 4 has because like Persona
Yeah.
5 is a lot more kind of like active, I guess is sort of a weird
Hmm.
way to describe it. But yeah, as for me, I
Sorry,
don't
go
know if
on.
you're familiar with JoJo's Bizarre Adventure at all, but
Yeah, I'm familiar. We
okay,
have a
so
joke. We have a joke in my because like when I played Persona, everybody would be like, "Is that a stand?" So as a joke, we banned the word JoJo in my chat.
I actually don't blame you. So like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is like actually my favorite manga series. I don't blame you at
Mhm.
all. I don't.
No, I know people love it, and I have a friend who's like a massive fan of JoJo, and I have nothing against the show. We just thought it was funny, so we just kept it. And people can't say JoJo in my chat anymore. But it's everybody's in on the joke. Everybody knows that we don't take it seriously because
This
yeah.
anti JoJo tyranny.
I can't believe it. Shenpai hates JoJo
What the fuck?
live.
Exposed? Yeah, no, so definitely I think my kind of like a comfort show for me is JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part
Mm,
4. Like I think that's a show and like a manga that I can consistently go back to and just kind of like chill out and watch and it makes me feel better like after watching it than I did before because I just have
mhm.
such a love for those characters in that setting and you know it's just something that's very kind of peaceful for me to watch. Kind of puts
Me
me at
with Mob
ease.
Psycho. Let's
I go,
go. High five.
I go,
Yeah, no, I feel a similar way with Mob Psycho. Even though I literally only got into that series like this year, it's it's kind of taken over my life. I think I've rewatched Mob Psycho now like 17 different times
oh
with
wow.
friends. Yeah, no, I literally flew to Japan just to go to a museum that like showcased Mob Psycho
Damn,
stuff.
they got a Mob Psycho museum?
Well, it was for a limited time. because they made a life-sized Reagan statue,
Okay.
and it was ugly. No, he like in real life he was actually kind of cool to look at. I've never in my life seen a statue that was not photogenic. I'm a little insane about the show, but yeah, it's definitely motivated me to do more of what I want to do. So yeah, I guess Persona 4 and Mob Psycho are for me very big comfort picks. But yeah, the museum is now taken down. It was only for like a month in Tokyo,
Damn.
and now they're moving it to Osaka, I think, for another month, and then it's gone. Yeah, it was just a limited time event.
Let's see, from Funny Silly Cat who asks, question, how are you so good at talking? I try to write scripts for video essays and I have such a hard time trying to make things flow and tie together so neatly, but you do it so well when it seems like you're just talking like a normal dude. I think this one's a little bit more so targeted at me, but
Oh yeah, go for it.
yeah, so yeah, I'll get your take on this for sure. But this is kind of like I don't know if I'd say this is even a secret, but I almost never script out videos anymore. I kind of went through this weird metamorphosis where early on I was incapable of talking without just like a full script. Like I would try to kind of do stuff just like raw, and I would just like get paralysis. Like actually, I would just freeze up and I was unable to do it. And I don't know. I kind of throughout the course of the years, I actually went through the opposite experience where now I hate writing scripts. I actually cannot stand like putting my thoughts into words and then reading them. I only do that very rarely when it comes to like very particular videos, but about 9.5 out of every 10 of my videos is kind of just me talking.
I do not do scripts.
Yeah.
I I don't write cool scripts. I don't do video essays. I'm just a funny person doing live streams. I've done a singular, like one or two scripted videos, and they weren't good. That is definitely a skill that you need to acquire.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, this is something that I have really, really had to kind of develop as a skill. Because growing up, I was always very shy and always kind of like
Mhm.
scared of talking, especially doing any kind of presentation. But it
Yeah.
really is one of those things. Like, I know it's kind of a cliche thing to give as advice, but you really do just have to kind of do it. And eventually you'll get better at it. So, like, after a while, you
Mhm.
just start to develop, like, kind of a better sense of like how to I say as I stumble all over my words, but like how to sort of flow your sentences and how to talk and the sort of right volume to speak at and stuff. So it really is something you kind of just have to develop on your own. Like I'm sure you kind of went through a similar thing where like after a while, especially from streaming, because you have to talk constantly, you
Yeah.
kind of just develop into it.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of like a topic that people don't really know when it comes to streaming specifically. It's really easy to stream yourself playing a game, but it's hard when you're challenging yourself to be consistently entertaining for hours. Um because you can't just sit there in silence and give a quip once every while and hope that that's how you do the streaming. It definitely took a while for me to get over the anxiety of just being comfortable with running my mouth while streaming. it, it's just something that you need to learn. You need to like act as if you like even if you have no viewers, you need to act as if there is someone constantly there and you need to act and talk and entertain because if you're sitting there waiting for people to come and they come into silence, what's going to make them stay, right? And that's just it's a skill that you need to build up and you need to get comfortable with, just like scripting, writing, hell, even in my instance, drawing. It's just stuff. It's you need to work on that stuff because you're not you're not gonna be naturally talented at it. And taking references from other creators as well is also really really good because you adapt on styles. That's just how it is.
Yeah, I'd say like definitely kind of refer to other creators, but mimicry is not good. Like, don't just try to be somebody, but
Yeah.
definitely kind of like take notes. And I guess like if you're watching a video, kind of think like, why, what is keeping me watching it? I guess is a good way to kind of think of it and
Yeah.
kind of like practice your own sort of speaking skills from there.
Mhm. If you can find your own niche and your own way of speaking and people are drawn to that, then you've pretty much made it. Then you've got your staple self.
See, Clever Bastard asks, is there a video or series that you have wanted to make, but you keep putting it off because of fear that it won't do well?
Yeah.
A lot.
Haha, tee, like so many. Yeah, I mean, as said, I'm not a script person, but I always wanted to talk about like media that I enjoy a lot in like deep rooted passion. Because like I keep thinking, like as I said earlier, I want to really make a video about me talking about Mob Psycho and why it's so special. But every time I think about doing it, I'm just like, oh, that's not gonna do well.
Yeah,
So I don't do
at
it.
least for me, I think one of the sort of bigger hurdles is that I'm into like actually a ton of stuff. Like there's all kinds of
Mm.
different stuff that I'm into that I would like to make videos about. I think part of it is just a feeling of unfamiliarity. Like I'm kind of leaving my comfort zone when I talk about other stuff. Like just kind of a totally random example. I've been reading this manga called Sakamoto Days. And I've
Mm.
been tempted to make a video about it once I kind of catch up on it, but some of it is just like the unfamiliarity of do I know what I'm talking about when it comes to this series, and just
Yeah.
like stuff like that I think definitely kind of creeps up on me. Another sort of like weirdly, I don't think this is a problem that applies to you at all, but one specific issue that keeps me from making certain videos is that the concept is too weird to the point where it's hard for me to find somebody else to do the video with. Like, I like to do I like to do a lot of kind of like versus battle sorts of videos in
Mhm,
terms, or like
mhm,
crossover kind of stuff. So it would be like, what if these JoJo characters fought these Persona characters, right? And
mhm.
I'm not good at doing those by myself, so I kind of need like a buddy along.
Oh.
But the problem is that it's hard to find that kind of holy triad where it's like, okay, you know the thing and you're good at talking about it, and you kind of have that like YouTube presence, because it's like you could find anybody on like a random Discord who's into two different series, right? But that
Yeah.
doesn't mean that you're gonna click and that they're gonna kind of like know what you're talking about, right?
Yeah. That's true.
Yeah, so that's definitely a big hurdle that keeps a lot of my like videos that I have like a shit ton of ideas for videos that I think would be really cool crossovers, but it's just about like finding the right person to kind of do them with is a problem for me a lot of the time.
Finding the right person and also finding the right footing and diving into that is one of my big hurdles.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I also have like a ton of ideas. Like the ideas are there. The execution not so much. So I don't do them. Maybe one day I will, but you got to get over that fear of failing. It's really the only one, really.
Yeah, like I'd say go ahead and try making that Mob Psycho video. Like I'd definitely give that a watch. I think it's important for any like content creator to like try to branch out at some point. And even if you do something that's kind of like weird and out there and doesn't get a lot of views, there's gonna be somebody out there who like it pops up in their subscription box and they think, no way, they made a video about this thing. I love this thing, and it's gonna kind of make their day. So
Perhaps, maybe, yeah. I think, yeah, I think it's just a fear that I need to get over. That's, I think, the biggest problem.
see, and our final question here from Oliver, who asks, "What's one way that the Persona series has positively affected you?"
I could be so mean to Persona right now.
Go ahead, lay into it.
I was about to say it made me realize that other things have better media literacy. I'm joking. That's so mean.
What? No, no, no. Explain. I'm actually interested. What do you mean by this?
I was making a joke. Like everybody says that like the Persona story is actually kind of like bad. It was just a jab at saying that. Oh yeah, it's kind of like too cliche.
Yeah.
But no. It's pretty. I think if anything comes from it, like positively affecting me, again, it shaped my career. Like it saved my career. It let me continue do what I love. So I have like a very deep rooted connection with Persona, and I do kind of owe it a lot, which is why I don't think I could ever speak ill of it in that regard.
At least for me, I think Persona is definitively the single like video game series that has had the biggest impact on like my life
Mhm.
and my kind of view on like the world, I guess. Because like Persona really did. I know it's kind of cliche or whatever to say, but Persona really did, especially Persona 3, teach me a lot of lessons about like sort of the value of life and friendship, and to not kind of
Mhm.
fall into like nihilism when it comes to, you know, your life or your social standing or whatever, and that there's always something better around the corner, right? Um,
Yeah.
And I think beyond just that, it's also like almost everybody that I kind of know nowadays that I consider a friend, I met either from the channel or sort of like from Persona, and it really
Mm.
did send my life on a very unique trajectory. Like I would probably be doing something normal if I had never played Persona 3, right? So
Oh, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I again, yeah, it's just, yeah, I loved playing through them. I think it was, genuinely, like, I'm not sure how much it affected me in my life, like, on a view basis of how I view life itself, but it did have a very direct impact on it. So, yeah, I every time I think of Persona, I do think about it in a positive way. There is, like, I can't say anything mean about Persona. It it's definitely, like, piqued my interest into, actually also taking more suggestions from people and playing, just being experimental with video games too. It's Yeah, no, Persona's special,
Oh yeah, for
and,
sure. Like I definitely kind of owe it a lot. Like I
yeah,
said,
yeah, yeah,
I would be in a very different place. Like I don't know where that place would be necessarily, but
yeah.
it definitely kind of put my life on a sort of different trajectory.
Same, same, for sure. No, yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I think that just about wraps it up. Shenpai,
Mm.
thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm sorry that I am very bad at speaking.
No, it's okay. It's a See, like for whoever asked the question about how you're good at talking, that's our secret is that we're not. You know,
Yeah.
behind the kind of the illusion of a YouTube video where it's like, wow, he spoke so perfectly, you're kind of missing the like 40 minutes of bad takes and silence where I'm just trying to think of what to say and stuff.
Yeah,
So
we're sitting here going like, What you don't know when seeing this video is that we actually sat here for 3 hours.
yeah, but you'll never be able to tell because the podcast has been edited so magnificently. We both seem like we're savants of speech, you know?
Yeah. Editing, the illusion.
Yeah.
No, but genuinely, thank you for having me. I do run my mouth a lot. I talk a lot, especially when someone lets me. So I appreciate it
No,
a lot.
that's very good because that's better than the podcast guest who says nothing, right? Like I
Oh, yeah,
definitely,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, no, genuinely, thank you so much for having me, and talking to me about a series that actually does mean a lot to me.
yeah, yeah. Thank you so much for coming on. I think we had a pretty good conversation.
Yeah, I would think so too.
Yeah. Is there anything you would like to plug, channels and such?
Hi, my name is Shenpai. You can find me on YouTube as Shenpais or Arrowvero. You can find me on Twitter at Arrowvero. You can also search Shenpai. You can probably find me. And if there's one thing I want to plug, I'm releasing a webcomic that is coming out on the 10th of July, and you can find it under birdhavencomic.com because that is a passion project of mine, and I've put a lot of heart and soul into it. So if you want to check it out, that's where you can check it out. Thumbs up.